Chinatown, New York. An ancient courtyard, the gate is wide open, and the black plaque hangs above the eaves, with 5 large characters on it, Ultimate Wuyang Pavilion. The black background, the red characters, the flying dragons and phoenixes, the swift strokes, and the characters seem to contain some special energy. Just one glance, and you will feel a stinging sensation. After entering the door, there is a blue stone screen wall, 10 feet long and 6 feet high, with a huge Wu character carved on it. Going around the screen wall, the courtyard is arranged like an old-fashioned martial arts hall. The ground is paved with blue stone, very flat, and there are some weight-bearing equipment for training on both sides. On the steps in front of the main room at the back, there is a man standing, who looks to be in his 20s or 30s, but has a solemn and imposing manner, like a master. He was nearly 2 meters tall, shirtless, with muscles all over his body, as if he were made of steel. Now he was giving a lecture with a voice as loud as a bell. In the courtyard opposite, a group of Chinese, both men and women, were lined up neatly to listen to his lecture. Our sect is the inheritance of the God of War. It was passed down from our founder, the ultimate monk, and our second-generation master, the ultimate Wuyang, to me, and I am now the 3rd generation. I am Zhang Lu, the 3rd generation leader of the ultimate Wuyang sect. The rules of our sect are: 1. Don't betray your master and ancestors. 2. Don't kill your fellow disciples. 3. Don't disclose your skills privately. 4. Don't be hostile to those who know the sword of hell. Do you understand? Everyone shouted in unison, "We understand." Very good. Zhang Lu nodded with satisfaction. Before you worship the ancestor, you should think carefully. It's not too late to withdraw now. But once you enter our sect, you must abide by the rules of our sect, otherwise I will definitely clean up the sect and take back the skills. His eyes were like lightning, sweeping through the crowd, and he asked loudly, "Is there anyone who quits?" Everyone shouted again in unison, "No." Very good. Now follow me to worship the ancestors. Zhang Lu turned and entered the main hall, and the other disciples followed him in a line. There were 2 spirit tablets in the main hall, one for the ultimate monk of the ancestor and the other for the ultimate infinite of the 2nd generation ancestor. Next to the spirit tablets, incense, candles and offerings were neatly placed. The founder, the ultimate monk, used ancient martial arts Qigong to simulate the proportion of electric current, and practiced to a high level to generate magnetism with electricity, eventually allowing ordinary people to master the ubiquitous magnetic field force in the universe, the rotation of the magnetic field. He is the founder of our sect. Although the disciples in the crowd had heard about it beforehand, hearing from their master in person that ordinary people could also develop superpowers still caused a commotion. Zhang Liu glared, and everyone felt their hearts beat violently, as if a bucket of cold water was poured over their heads, and their heads immediately cleared up. They dared not speak anymore, and stood still and listened obediently. The 2nd generation ancestor is Ultimate Wuyang. His original name is Wuyang, and later he changed his name to Ultimate Wuyang. After the 2nd generation ancestor's magical power was perfected, he dominated the world and had few rivals. He is the true founder of this sect. These 2 ancestors are not from this world. I am a disciple of the 2nd generation ancestor and came to this world accidentally. In order to pass on the ultimate Wuyang sect, I established myself as the 3rd generation leader of this sect and spread the martial arts of the God of War in this world. Now, follow me to salute the 2 ancestors. After speaking, Zhang Lu turned around, took a stick of incense from the table, flicked his fingers to light the incense, held the incense in both hands, and bowed down. The other disciples also bowed and said, "Greetings, Grand Master." They bowed 3 times and the ceremony was over. Zhang Lu inserted the incense into the incense burner and turned to continue his lecture. You are only nominal disciples now. Only those who can enter within 3 months can become formal disciples. There is no discrimination in my sect. No matter whether you are a good person or a bad person, high or low talent, rich or poor, as long as you are determined to devote yourself to martial arts, I will treat you equally and will never hide anything from you. As for what you do with the Qigong you have learned, I don't care. It's all up to you to decide. Good and bad fortune come from one's own actions. In principle, the sect will not take care of your personal grudges. Life and death are determined by fate, and wealth and honor are determined by God. Do you understand? Everyone shouted in unison again. Understood. Very good. Everyone sit down now. I will first explain to you the secret of the ultimate infinite Qigong. My martial arts are very different from other martial arts in the world. The key is not talent, not hard work, and even less resources. There is only one key point to practicing our martial arts, and that is will. As long as your will is strong enough and you can continuously explode in battle, you can surpass others who have practiced for 10 years in an instant. The entry point of ultimate infinite Qigong is to make Qigong successfully simulate the state of electric current. This requires an extremely strong will to control Qigong to bind cells, let the cells rub against each other, and generate electric current. There are some scientific methods that can assist in cultivation, but I hope that everyone can use these methods but not rely on them. Everyone must remember that martial arts realms are just appearances. The root lies in willpower. You may improve rapidly by using scientific methods, but if your willpower is not tempered in the process, your realm will be nothing but a floating duckweed. Once you fight against other martial gods, you will most likely be overturned. Have you remembered it clearly? All the disciples replied in unison, I have remembered it clearly. The core lies in willpower. Zhang Lu nodded with satisfaction and continued to explain. There are a total of 27 difficulties in the entry level. I will briefly introduce them to you. You should remember the theory first, and then we will start practicing. Zhang Lu explained the exercises and secrets of the ultimate infinite Qigong clearly, without holding back, and then earnestly answered some of the disciples' questions before guiding them to start their first Qigong. Most of these disciples are ordinary people who have never practiced martial arts and know nothing about Qigong. It is not an easy task to let them start from scratch, master Qigong step by step, and further step into the realm of electric current promotion. But Zhang Lu is very patient now, because he needs a powerful martial god to appear. The ultimate infinite Qigong can allow ordinary people to develop superpowers and then practice magnetic field rotation, but it has a fatal flaw, that is, the upper limit is only 50 layers of heaven. To reconstruct the body and achieve immortality, at least the 75th heaven is required. Therefore, the lifespan of the martial gods of the ultimate Wu-Yang sect is not much stronger than that of ordinary people. This is not something Zhang Lu can accept. Since he has traveled through time twice and obtained a system, he naturally has the ambition to climb to the top of the food chain and be immortal. Zhang Lu was originally an ordinary earthling, but accidentally traveled to the world of the god of war, became a disciple of the ultimate Wu-Yang sect, and after more than 10 years of hard training, he finally reached the 9th level of magnetic field rotation. However, in a big melee between the god of war and the main god space warriors, he accidentally traveled to this Marvel world. However, he accidentally got a system, and according to the system requirements, he was able to open a sect in Marvel. The sect rules were originally the sect rules of the ultimate Wu-Yang sect in the martial god world. When he established the sect through the system, they automatically appeared in the system settings. The system required Zhang Lu to train at least 10 local martial gods with a magnetic field rotation of 50 layers, and the reward was the opportunity to break through the upper limit of the ultimate Wu-Yang Qigong. However, the magnetic field rotation is something that can kill people by slowly practicing. the founder of the sect, the ultimate monk, died in this way. Fortunately, this magical skill can continuously explode in battle, and it is possible to surpass others who have practiced for 10 years in an instant. In a fierce battle, as long as you don't die, you may be able to ascend to more than 10 levels. Although fighting with other strong people in this world is also a method, the rotation of the magnetic field will affect each other. The effect of fighting with another martial god is definitely much better than fighting with strong people from other systems. Zhang Lu didn't want to practice step by step, because the efficiency was too low. Since there were no martial gods in this world, Zhang Lu would cultivate some martial gods himself, and then either kill him or force him to evolve. In Nick Fury's office at the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. How is it? May, how threatening is this Zhang Lu? When Zhang Lu traveled to this world, the space fluctuations he created attracted the attention of S.H.I.E.L.D. However, due to the lack of precision in technology, S.H.I.E.L.D. took a long time to find Zhang Lu. At this time, Zhang Lu had already opened a martial arts school in Chinatown and publicly claimed to his disciples that he was not from this world and that his Qigong could give ordinary people superpowers. This kind of speech sounds like the tricks of a scammer or the dream talk of a mental patient. However, his martial arts school teaches everyone and does not charge any fees, so there are still many people who go to learn from him. As a S.H.I.E.L.D. agency that takes the safety of the Earth as its own responsibility, it is impossible for them to let an alien wander around the city at will, or even open a school to teach disciples. Who knows what he teaches? What if it is something like offering sacrifices to evil gods in exchange for power? That would be terrible. Therefore, S.H.I.E.L.D. investigated Zhang Lu as soon as they found him. However, the first agent sent to investigate failed to achieve the goal. It was not because the agent's professional level was not strong enough, but because Zhang Lu only knew Chinese, did not understand English, could not understand it, and could not speak it. As for Chinese, whether it was Mandarin, Cantonese, or Minnan dialect, or even the languages of ethnic minorities, he understood them all. The only thing he didn't understand was English. All the disciples he accepted had to be able to speak Chinese, otherwise they would not be accepted. There was no other way, so Nick had to change an agent to investigate. Although there were many agents who knew Chinese, considering that the alien had an oriental appearance, Nick finally chose Melinda May, a Chinese female agent. More than a month has passed, and today May finally came back to submit the task. May poured herself a cup of coffee first, and then sat across from Nick. To be honest, when I first received the task, my first feeling was that you gave me a chance to take a break. We don't know how many fake scams like this have been exposed, and I thought it would be the same this time. But when I joined the martial arts school, I was surprised that things might be different this time. He taught the same thing to all his disciples, but it sounded very systematic and perfectly self-consistent. So I decided to learn from him and see if it really works. Oh, I almost forgot. You are our Iron Cavalry, and no Kung Fu can be hidden from you. Nick smiled and gave May a little compliment. Nick. May was not happy about his compliment, but stared at him seriously. This matter may be very serious. Nick was stunned and sat up straight. How serious? May did not speak, but stretched out her hand. Nick looked carefully and saw a spark appear out of thin air, jumping back and forth between May's 5 open fingers. In order to let Nick see more clearly, May moved her hand towards the coffee cup on the table, and the arc jumped from May's fingers to the metal spoon on the cup. May put her hand on the back of Nick's hand, and Nick immediately felt a weak current flowing through his body, causing his hand to tremble. Hiss! Nick took a breath of cold air. Nick knew that May was an ordinary person. But now, May had superpowers. Nick was sure that this was not an illusion or a trick, but a superpower. His Qigong is real, and it can really give people superpowers. Now you know how serious this is. Nick stood up suddenly and reached out to grab the phone. Crossbones, I need 2 teams of fully armed soldiers to gather downstairs. He put his hand over the phone, turned around and asked May, how many students does he have now? How many have superpowers? May tilted her head and thought for a moment. The number of students is probably around 500. Damn it! Nick cursed, turned around and said to Crossbones on the other end of the phone, I need 10 teams. May suddenly smiled and said, but I am the only student with superpowers at the moment. Ha! Nick was stunned for a moment. Then he looked at May's mischievous expression and laughed angrily. I really should send you to Siberia. The operation is cancelled. Let everyone disperse. It's a false alarm. He hung up the phone and sat back in his original position, crossed his hands on the table, stared at May with his one eye, and said word by word, if you don't want to take a walk with the penguins tonight, you'd better give me some good news. May shrugged. Okay, I'm just a little excited. Can you imagine? A person who has practiced martial arts to a certain limit suddenly sees the direction of improvement. This kind of happiness and joy will inevitably make people a little out of control. Besides, this is a superpower. Who doesn't want to be different? Don't you think so? Nick stared at May for a long while, and finally nodded and said, okay, I forgive you. Now, we can return to the original topic and continue to talk about this alien martial artist. He actually came from a parallel world of another Earth, where martial arts flourished and the world was ruled by a group of beings called martial gods. He never shied away from talking about these things. Whenever students asked him about them, he would tell them stories about another world. But most students just listened to them as stories and didn't really believe what he said. Although he accepted many students, they were all nominal disciples. Only those who could enter the sect within 3 months, like me, could successfully develop superpowers. He called this the electric current promotion realm. Only those who have entered the sect are considered his formal disciples. And the key to entering the sect lies in willpower. In other words, you are now his formal disciple. Yes, and the only one at the moment. May said with a little pride. This is just the beginning. After a few years of study, I will become even stronger. But, at the same time, you should be able to imagine how much damage would be caused if such ability was learned by other bad guys. And the problem is that my teacher's values are different from those of other martial artists. He doesn't care about the behavior of his students. Nick listened carefully, nodded and said, this is normal. His values should have been shaped in the world of the god of war. In a place without government constraints and where the god of war rules the world, his values must be very distorted. May also put away her smile and said seriously, we can't let him continue like this. We must stop him. Dangerous knowledge cannot be widely spread. This is common sense. May looked at Nick with expectation, waiting for him to order the arrest of people. But to her surprise, Nick held his chin with both hands, looking thoughtful, but did not give any order. What's wrong? Any questions? May, you just said that the key to getting started is willpower. Yes, that's true. May was a little confused, but still answered Nick's question honestly. Then how many people in S.H.I.E.L.D. do you think can get started? Nick's one eye was shining with greedy stars. Well, you don't mean to. May guessed what Nick was thinking and was completely shocked by his way of thinking. That's right, May. I will select agents from within S.H.I.E.L.D. to organize a warrior team, and then I need you to tell them everything you have learned. Is there a problem? Of course no problem. In fact, Zhang Lu did not hide anything and explained it in great detail. And you know, I am used to carrying some recording equipment with me. May said, proudly pulling out a small information storage device from her body, holding it between 2 fingers, and handed it over. Ha ha. Great, May. Nick laughed and took the information storage device. You may have to continue to lurk for a while. Just treat it as a vacation. A vacation that can make you stronger. I think there must be many people who would love it. May smiled and stood up and left Nick's office. In the next few months, May went to the martial arts gym every day to receive instruction from John Lu, and then sent the recordings to S.H.I.E.L.D. at night. S.H.I.E.L.D. then sent her a summary of the difficult questions of the warrior team, and she asked them during the day. John Lu valued his first official disciple very much and answered every question. Although John Lu had watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before, he had been in the martial arts world for more than 10 years and had almost forgotten the general plot. He only had some impression of some of the more familiar protagonists. If it was Tony Stark, he would definitely remember it, but May. Under John Lu's guidance, May made rapid progress. The arc on his fingertips changed from short to long, from weak to strong, and the voltage gradually increased, quickly breaking through the threshold of 10,000 volts. It was a happy thing to watch myself making continuous progress every day. May was addicted to the process of becoming stronger, but something went wrong at S.H.I.E.L.D. This is impossible. May sat across from Nick's desk again, her face full of disbelief. This is the truth. It's been 3 months now, but none of the agents in the warrior squad have been able to develop superpowers. But I turned in all the recordings, and what I learned was the same as what they learned. I believe you, May. I think there must be something wrong here. In fact, Nick discovered the problem a month ago, and then he sent someone else to put in another bug. He compared the recordings from the 2 wiretaps and confirmed that May had not privately intercepted the information before calling May over for a discussion. How have you been these past few months? Have you made any progress in your current? When talking about her own progress, May could no longer hide the smile on her face. I think you'll be surprised when you see it, Nick. Let's go to the training ground and I'll show you. The two came to the training ground. When Nick saw May blocking all the bullets in front of him with a wave of her hand, his jaw dropped in surprise. But it was not over yet. Then May showed her super attack ability. Those targets that could withstand the attack of tanks were shattered under May's fists and feet. This is the ultimate infinite palm and the ultimate emperor kick. They are moves that match Qigong, but they require the cooperation of Qigong, and ordinary people cannot practice them. Moreover, it is said that the stronger the realm, the greater the power that this move can exert. If you practice it to the limit, you can even create the world. Of course, this should be just an exaggeration, but it is amazing enough, isn't it? Nick took a long time to adjust his jaw. It's not like he hasn't seen stronger ones before, like Captain Marvel, so normally he wouldn't be so surprised. But the problem is, 3 months ago, the electricity in May's hand was hard to light a cigarette, let alone use in actual combat. It seems that we seriously underestimated this man called John Lu. Nick was silent for a while. May, try to ask John Lu why these agents can't get in. Okay, I got it. May said goodbye to Nick, left S.H.I.E.L.D., drove back to the martial arts hall, and asked to see John Lu directly, and asked her own questions. Of course, she didn't dare to ask directly, but went around in circles. Master, why do I seem to be practicing very slowly at home? I can hardly feel any progress. Is it because I am practicing wrongly, or I am not paying attention to something? John Lu laughed. This is normal. Ultimate Infinite Qigong is a peerless magic skill. It is very difficult to practice. Normally, an ordinary person, no matter how strong his willpower is, cannot get started within 3 months. But practicing in the martial arts hall can act as an accelerator, 1,000 times faster than practicing in the outside world. Because, Every inch of space in the martial arts hall is filled with my martial arts spirit, and this spirit will help people who are weaker than me to practice. And the weaker the person, the better the acceleration effect. To some extent, this makes up for the shortcomings of those who are born with defects, poor talents, and the elderly and weak. It gives them the opportunity to compete with others on the same starting line. But what Zhang Lu didn't say is that it is not only his magnetic field rotation realm that plays a role here, but to a large extent, it also depends on the system's acceleration effect on the registered disciples. Mei finally understood. She said goodbye and left the martial arts gym. She sent the recording first, and after a while, she called Nick. Nick, my understanding is that there is a magnetic field around his body that accelerates the practice of Qigong. Thanks to this magnetic field, I can make such rapid progress. And the S.H.I.E.L.D. warrior team lacks this magnetic field. Perhaps you can send some scientists to test it. After hanging up the phone, Mei returned to the martial arts hall and began her own practice. Before, she didn't know about the existence of the speed-up cheat, so Mei went home to rest every day, but now, she won't leave even if she is driven away. She thought that she could leave this matter to the scientists, and the rest of the things had nothing to do with her, so she could practice with peace of mind. But the next morning, she found that Nick suddenly appeared in front of the martial arts hall. I've consulted scientists, but they said that they can measure the magnetic field, but they have to install a lot of instruments and equipment in the martial arts hall. Mei rolled her eyes and sighed helplessly. I don't think he would agree to let those nerds turn the martial arts hall into a laboratory. I thought so too, so I came. I need to talk to him. His martial arts skills may be very high. Try to resolve this matter peacefully. Okay, I understand. Mei led Nick into the martial arts hall and came to the main hall, where Zhang Lu was answering questions for registered disciples. Nick did not go up to interrupt, but waited patiently for Zhang Lu to finish his explanation before speaking. I'm from the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency, abbreviated as S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm Director Nick Fury. Nice to meet you. Nick smiled and extended a hand of friendship to Zhang Lu. Zhang Lu turned his head and glanced at Mei. What did this black guy say? Nick's face darkened instantly, although no one could see it. As the king of agents, Nick could speak Chinese, but he was used to speaking English, so when he introduced himself, he used English. What's worse, he understood Zhang Lu's question in Chinese. It is the basic ethics of a spitting face to swallow one's own anger. He glared at Mei, who was laughing beside him, pretended not to hear, and apologized in Chinese with a smile. I'm so sorry, I forgot that Mr. Zhang doesn't speak English. Then I will introduce myself again in Chinese. I'm from the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency, abbreviated as S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm Director Nick Fury. Nice to meet you. Zhang Lu nodded slightly, but did not shake hands with Nick. It turned out to be a black-salted egg. Zhang Lu immediately remembered it. He took a look and immediately understood that Mei was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D, but he didn't say anything. These external identities were meaningless to him. He was not a native and had no respect for the federal government and the Security Council. Hello, please come in and talk. He extended his hand to greet the two and invited them to the living room. Although they did not shake hands, Nick was still very satisfied. At least judging from his attitude, he was very friendly. As for the small matter of shaking hands, as the king of spies, Nick certainly knew that not all countries use handshakes as a courtesy. This is just a common etiquette in the West. Therefore, Zhang Lu's failure to shake hands with him does not mean that Zhang Lu is hostile to him. Zhang Lu's micro-expressions tell Nick that this person has no hostility in his heart. The living room is also decorated in Chinese style, with an 8-mortal table in the middle, a landscape painting hanging on the wall behind the table, a chair on each side of the table, and 2 rows of chairs on both sides, arranged in parallel. The 3 of them entered the living room and sat down as host and guest. A registered disciple came to serve tea. May respectfully stepped forward to apologize. "I'm sorry, Master. I'm actually an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Zhang Lu stretched out his hand to stop her apology and said with a smile, "When you first joined, I told you that our sect teaches everyone regardless of their background. So, if you're apologizing for something as trivial as your identity as an agent, there's no need to apologize." What he didn't say secretly was that even if Hydra came to become his disciple, he would still accept him. "I accepted you as my disciple because of you, and because you were able to successfully enter the realm of electric current within 3 months. As for your identity, it doesn't matter. You must remember that you will become a martial god in the future. These external things are like the hair on a person's body. You don't need to care about them." Zhang Lu was so reasonable that Nick was more confident about the next conversation. "Mr. Zhang, our S.H.I.E.L.D. is an organization dedicated to protecting the Earth. We have the responsibility to supervise and manage all alien life that may harm the Earth." Nick was very cautious and polite when he spoke, for fear that Zhang Lu would get angry. He had dealt with alien life a lot. No matter what kind of life it was, it would be disgusted by being supervised. Especially the life from some higher worlds. They could not tolerate being supervised by a group of bugs, and it was normal for them to turn hostile and fight on the spot. But fortunately, Zhang Lu didn't care about this at all. "Oh, don't worry about this. I have no interest in money and power in the world. Now I just want to carry forward the ultimate Wuyang sect and cultivate as many martial gods as possible." Nick felt relieved. The most dangerous moment was over. It should be easier to talk about it next. He immediately showed the goodwill of S.H.I.E.L.D. "Haha, if it's convenient for Mr. Zhang, you might as well hang a consultant badge in our S.H.I.E.L.D. With this identity, many things will be less troublesome. And if Mr. Zhang needs anything in the future, you can also directly ask our S.H.I.E.L.D. for help. Our organization is an international organization with a huge influence." Zhang Lu thought about it, nodded and agreed. It would be better to have less trouble and avoid wasting too much time. If he didn't accept it, the next wave might be the S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick smiled even more happily, opening his mouth wide and showing all his white teeth. "Then I'll ask May to send you the consultant's certificate later." Nick is a man who is used to pushing things further. "Also, Mr. Zhang, do you mind if our S.H.I.E.L.D. learn a lot of your Qigong?" "No, I don't mind. The more disciples like May, the better. Let them come and become my disciples. As long as they worship the Master, they will become my disciples of the ultimate Wuyang sect. It's so satisfying. The more martial gods there are, the better. As for being surpassed by his disciples, if he doesn't even have this little confidence, what's the point of being a martial god?" Nick's eyes were so big that they smiled like crescents, and he asked further, "We have many scientists in S.H.I.E.L.D. who are very interested in the scientific principles behind the ultimate infinite Qigong. Do you mind if they start researching it?" "Oh, actually, there are scientists in the world of the God of War, and the ultimate infinite Qigong can be assisted in practice through scientific methods. Of course, I don't mind the arrival of scientists. I also have some research on electromagnetism, and I am willing to communicate and learn with scientists. Although the system can provide opportunities for breakthroughs, according to Zhang Liu's personality, it is impossible to pin all hopes on one system. It would of course be better if he could gather the power of the world and break through this limit by himself. If you want to break through the limit of the 50th level of the ultimate infinite Qigong, you must not give up on both combat perception and scientific research. and you must go hand in hand. Now someone has taken the initiative to send scientists here, and Zhang-Lu is of course very welcome. Nick is now very satisfied with Zhang-Lu, the alien. This is simply the golden finger given by God to S.H.I.E.L.D. He wanted more. Then I'll ask the scientists to set up some instruments and equipment here. Is that convenient? I don't have any objection. Zhang-Lu turned his head and looked around. But this place is quite old, and I don't know if it can accommodate it. In my impression, many scientific equipment are bulky. This is easy. Nick waved his hand and sent a big gift package to the door. This place is really not suitable for your status. Let's put it this way. S.H.I.E.L.D. will build a large martial arts hall for you in the suburbs. When the time comes, you can move there with your students. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. is willing to show goodwill, Zhang-Lu will certainly not refuse. In that case, I won't be polite. Zhang-Lu smiled and accepted the olive branch. The two chatted happily until Nick let the cat out of the bag. Or rather, he didn't realize the seriousness of the matter at all. Ultimate Infinite Qigong. Can it really be practiced by willpower regardless of talent, physical fitness and other conditions? Of course. But those with good aptitude can practice much faster, and there are people who can get started in one day. But the only factor that determines the upper limit is willpower. That's great. This is something tailor-made for agents. May taught Qigong to other agents before, but no one learned it. I didn't know there was such a thing as magnetic field acceleration around you, and I thought. Nick suddenly noticed that the smile on Zhang-Lu's face had disappeared and his expression had darkened. He stopped talking and quickly went over what he had just said in his mind, but found nothing wrong. What's wrong? Did something happen? You just said that May taught Qigong to other agents. Zhang-Lu asked in a cold voice. Yes. Nick still didn't understand what was wrong with this. Then you know that our sect forbids the private disclosure of the skills. A dazzling red light flashed in the system in Zhang-Lu's brain. Mission: clean up the house. Mission content: severely punish the disciple Melinda May who privately disclosed the skills, deter all parties, and set an example. Mission reward: spy eye fair penalty. None. As soon as Nick saw Zhang-Lu's expression, he knew that the situation was not good. He was flexible and apologized immediately and decisively. I am very sorry. We did something wrong in this matter. I will immediately ask all those who have practiced Ultimate Infinite Qigong to come and become my disciples. Zhang-Lu waved his hand and interrupted him. These are two different things. Learning skills after becoming a disciple is the correct order. It is also possible to become a disciple after stealing skills. However, after becoming a disciple, leaking the skills without the permission of the master is a taboo in all sects and must be severely punished. What kind of punishment is this? I will recover her martial arts. How can we get back what she has already learned? Can we brainwash her into forgetting it? I will destroy her. It's that simple. What? That won't do. Nick would not do it this time. If there was a fine, Nick would write a check immediately without hesitation. If there were other punishment measures, Nick would also help solve them. But abolishing this solution is definitely not within Nick's consideration. May brought Qigong back to S.H.I.E.L.D, which is a great achievement. If such a great person is not protected and she is allowed to be abolished, how can she lead the team in the future? Besides, S.H.I.E.L.D is used to being rampant, so how can it really suffer a loss? The reason why he is negotiating with Zhang-Lu here politely this time is just because he may have a higher force value and the cost of containing him is relatively high. It is not that Nick Fury is really afraid of Zhang-Lu. Nick also drooped his face and threatened, Mr. Zhang, the reason why May leaked the skills privately was because of the order of S.H.I.E.L.D. So what? Zhang-Lu's voice also turned cold. Do you mean that S.H.I.E.L.D. is bigger than our sect? Mei is first an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and only secondarily a disciple of the ultimate Wuyang sect. I have said that identity and other things are irrelevant. They are just some external appearances. For the god of war, they are meaningless. Zhang-Lu turned his head and looked at Mei. Mei, let me ask you, do you know that you are wrong? Since both sides have already broken their faces, Mei has no need to pretend to be polite. It is my mission to come to the martial arts hall to investigate. Zhang-Lu laughed in anger. Ha ha. So you don't want to admit your mistake? Mei replied indifferently. She had never understood the culture of the Eastern master-disciple relationship. To her, the so-called sect was essentially the same as paying money to the teacher to learn knowledge in school. I give you money, and you sell me knowledge. As for whether I will resell the knowledge, it has nothing to do with you. As for the so-called sect rules, in her opinion, they are equivalent to school rules, not even lower-level laws. If she is willing to abide by them, she can abide by them. If she is not willing to abide by them, you can go to court and sue me. Zhang-Lu snorted coldly, with murderous intent. Before you entered the sect, I said that if you do not agree with the rules of our sect, you can leave and I will not stop you. But once you enter the sect, you must abide by the rules of our sect. Didn't you hear it clearly at the time? Mei was getting a little impatient. I'm a level C S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I obey federal laws first, followed by the Bureau's rules and regulations, and only consider other things last. Zhang-Lu was completely disappointed with this stubborn disciple. So you think that shitty federation is more powerful than our sect, right? I originally thought that you would have the demeanor of a martial god, but now it seems that you can't even get past your appearance. You are really a hopeless case. Nick was also angry. Mr. Zhang, you need to think carefully. The place you are standing on belongs to the Federation and is under the jurisdiction of the Federation. If you dare to violate federal laws, don't blame us for being rude. He stood up suddenly. Mei, let's go. Mei followed Nick without hesitation and walked out. Go. Do you still want to go? Although Zhang-Lu was still sitting in his seat, his murderous intent surged and enveloped the two of them. Before Nick and the other men even left the house, they felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave, frozen from head to toe, unable to move at all. Nick secretly said in his heart that it was bad, but he couldn't even move his fingertips, so it was impossible for him to call for help. But then he felt a surge of electricity around Mei beside him, breaking the murderous intent that enveloped the two of them. Not bad, you can withstand my murderous aura, your willpower is still good. Zhang-Lu praised. After Nick escaped, he immediately pressed the button in his hand and sent a signal to the outside world. After that, he felt relieved and turned to look at Zhang-Lu. For such unruly aliens, they still had to be taught a lesson before they could talk properly. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who had been ambushed outside the door quickly surrounded the martial arts hall. The tanks on the ground and the planes in the sky surrounded the entire martial arts hall. This gave Nick a false sense of security, and he announced in a grand manner, "You will be arrested for attempting to attack S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. It's too late for you to regret now." Ha ha! That's so funny, a bunch of rats, actually trying to threaten a martial god. Well, today I'll show you what a martial god is. Seeing that this trapped turtle was still so arrogant, Mei was furious. He gathered all his strength, and the electricity quickly flowed through his body. He jumped up and used the ultimate emperor kick to hit Zhang-Lu in the face. 10,000 volts. You should also taste the taste of electricity. Zhang-Lu sat in his original position without even raising his eyelids. This heavy chop hit Zhang-Lu's face, but Zhang-Lu didn't even mess up his hair. Nick and the others were shocked. Nick knew how heavy Mei's legs were. This kick would turn a tank into scrap metal, but it had no effect on Zhang-Lu. Nick suddenly had a bad feeling. He was about to call for a stop, but it was too late. Zhang-Lu flicked his fingers lightly, and a weak electric current flew out, hitting Mei's body. This electric current looked insignificant, just like the one Mei had demonstrated in Nick's office, subtle and dim, but after Mei was hit, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning, and her energy was immediately drained away. With a loud bang, a figure was blasted out of the martial arts hall and knocked over a tank in the encirclement outside. The agents thought it was an attack and quickly surrounded them with their weapons. "Oh no, this is Agent Mei. Call the medical team." "No, I haven't lost yet." Mei was covered in blood, but she still struggled to stand up and looked at the figure who walked out of the gap. "Come again," she yelled and pumped up the electricity again. "Didn't you see that willpower is the core? Didn't you see that an intense battle and a moment of enlightenment can surpass others' 10 years of hard training? Then today I will let you see how strong my willpower is. Since 10,000 volts is not enough, then 20,000 volts. Nick sat in the helicopter, looking at the ruins below, his heart filled with shock and anger. The battle continued, but rather than calling it a battle, it might be more appropriate to describe it as a one-sided beating. Mei repeatedly pushed her limits, from 10,000 volts to 20,000 volts, 50,000 volts, and 100,000 volts, but all her efforts were in vain. Zhang-Lu, like at the beginning, stood still and let Mei hit him. Then, he could easily eject a weak electric current and blast Mei away. The so-called planes and tanks are meaningless to this brutal alien. Looking from the sky, a straight passage extends from Chinatown to the seaside. This is a death passage blasted out by using Mei's body as a cannonball. Although Nick has a heart of stone and cannot hear the wailing of the innocent people in the ruins below, this incident will inevitably make him suffer a lot of blame, and he feels a headache just thinking about it. What made him even more depressed was that he didn't know how to end this matter. He made a lot of mistakes in this matter. Everything was going well at first, but he let something slip, which led to the subsequent conflict. He didn't know the existence of the system. He now thought that this was a misjudgment on his part. He didn't understand what was important and what was unimportant to Zhang-Lu, an alien. He used his own way of thinking to measure the alien, which led to such a serious mistake. The second big mistake was that he seriously underestimated the alien's strength. He originally thought that he had overestimated it, but when Zhang-Lu showed the true fighting power of the god of war, this terrifying ability that seemed like a god still frightened him. Although he had seen Captain Marvel's strength, Captain Marvel could not be replicated, while Zhang-Lu could obviously be mass-produced through training. From Zhang-Lu's words, it was not difficult to see that he believed that Mei could also become a martial god, and there were many people like Mei in S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if he could not reach the level of Zhang-Lu, just looking at Mei's terrifying combat power now, you can see how much benefit this would bring to S.H.I.E.L.D. But now everything has vanished. He has decided to give up Mei. As long as he can satisfy Zhang-Lu, he can definitely train 10 or 100 agents like Mei. At that time, what is the need for the Avengers? Wouldn't it be better to just form a martial arts alliance? Just thinking about this kind of thing makes me feel warm. However, the most urgent task was to solve the problem at hand. Mei, I'm sorry. He raised his head and looked at the battlefield in the distance, where lightning was lingering and shooting straight into the sky. Mei was now soaked in blood, and her bones and internal organs were severely injured in many places, but her spirit was unprecedentedly excited. She desperately urged her internal energy and began to squeeze the sails frantically to squeeze out more electricity. Electric current pushes, 1 volts. More current was generated, causing her hair to stand up, and the ends of her hair were flashing with light blue electric sparks. Her entire body was wrapped in the external current, like a human-shaped lightning. Come again. Ultimate Infinite Palm. She once again attacked Zhonglu, who was strolling in front of her. But unfortunately, the result did not change. Zhonglu still received the heavy palm on her face, and then flicked his fingers to knock her away. Mei was bounced like a ball again, leaving a long and deep groove on the beach. Zhonglu walked over and said leisurely, "Your will is not bad, but unfortunately, it's not enough." Mei's half-body was immersed in water. She struggled to get up, staring at the culprit in front of her with hatred, and did not speak, but squeezed the sails frantically again. Those who punch the weak are cowards. Only those who punch the strong are martial gods. You have a good mind and do have the qualities of a martial god. Unfortunately, you made a mistake and violated the sect rules. Zhonglu felt really sorry. This was his first disciple in this world and the role model he wanted to set. But, what a pity! The original positive role model has now become a target for him to establish his authority. Killing her is easy. With Mei's current level, he can just slap her. But if he kills her too easily, S.H.I.E.L.D. will inevitably come to harass him again. It's better to strike with one blow than to strike with 100. He might as well let those guys see the power of the God of War so that they won't come to bother him all the time. But it's not good for Mei to be too weak, in case she can't show the power of the God of War. Zhonglu stretched out a finger, let the electric current form a loop, and then transform it into a magnetic field. The electric current is just the beginning. The ultimate goal is to transform electricity into magnetism, let the electric current drive, and turn it into a magnetic field. If you can succeed, you may still have a chance to escape. Mei spat heavily on the ground. "Pa. I just want to kill you now." Zhonglu laughed. "Yes, that's it. This is how a martial god should be. Love is love, hate is hate. If you want to kill me, then just come." Mei mustered up his strength again. Electric current drives, 200,000 volts. The ultimate endless palm. This time Zhonglu did not continue to defend. He summoned the power of the magnetic field to rotate the first level, then lowered the power flow and gently collided with Mei's legs. The result this time was completely different from the previous defense. The two huge forces collided and exploded. Nick, who was watching the battle from a safe distance on the helicopter in the distance, was startled by the sudden explosion. Immediately afterwards, the gust of wind caused by the explosion nearly caused the helicopter to lose control. The pilot was also terrified and quickly turned around and left. Nick saw that the scope of the battle had expanded, so he quickly retreated a distance, but he was reluctant to give up this first-hand data, so he insisted on watching from a distance and did not leave. This attack blasted Mei directly from the land to the sea. She bounced on the sea like a water float, and finally stopped when she hit a small island. Although Zhonglu controlled this attack to a lower level, the damage it caused to Mei was still greater than the previous ones. Mei's right hand was already twisted and deformed, and it was obvious that it was useless. But Mei's eyes were still firm, and the pain would only make her stronger. Electric current push, 31 volts. The ultimate endless palm. She jumped high, looking down from above, and used her left hand to challenge Zhonglu, who was standing on the sea again. Zhonglu nodded with satisfaction, and the low-flow magnetic field continued to rotate, gently pushing upward. The two palms collided, producing an even more violent explosion than before. The air wave emptied the seawater, forming a huge sphere, which lasted for a moment, and then the seawater rushed back. "Come on! Electric current pushes, 41 volts. The ultimate emperor kick." The two fought more and more fiercely, not noticing that under the influence of the aftermath of the battle, a large amount of seawater was stirred up, forming waves several meters high, rushing towards the shore. New York City, located in the southeastern part of New York State, is the largest city and the largest commercial port in the United States. It is located at the mouth of the Hudson River in southeastern New York State, bordering the Atlantic Ocean. It consists of 5 districts: Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, and Richmond. It is the most populous city in the U.S. New York is a world-class city. Because of its prosperous economy, New York has always been crowded with tourists, and the New York seaside is the most frequented place by tourists. The beach here is sunny and the sea water is clean and clear, and today is no exception. Groups of tourists, wearing swimsuits, sunbathe on the beach, swim a few laps in the sea from time to time, and come up to have a drink when they are tired. Maybe they can have a romantic encounter or something. But at some point, there was a flash of lightning in the distance, but strangely, the sky was still clear without a single cloud, but there seemed to be a faint thunder. The weather at the seaside changes quickly. Many steady tourists have already landed and are ready to take a shower and leave. But before they reach the bathroom, they hear screams from behind. They look back and are terrified to see a white line surging in the sky, approaching the coast in a few breaths. This is clearly a huge wave, more than 10 meters high. Damn it! It's a tsunami! Everyone on the beach was terrified and turned to run, but their speed was no match for the huge waves. They were crushed by the waves before they could take a few steps. The huge waves carried violent energy and directly hit the shore. In the face of this natural disaster, all man-made buildings were like building blocks, instantly pushed down, swept away, and destroyed. Nick on the helicopter was going crazy. You guys can fight if you want, but you can't make such a big noise. Where is this place? This is New York. New York is not only the financial center of the United States, but also one of the financial centers of the world. It directly affects the global economy, finance, media, politics, education, entertainment and fashion and other industries. It is recognized as the capital of the world. New York is also one of the industrial centers of the United States. Its clothing, printing, cosmetics and other industries are ranked first in the country. Machinery manufacturing, arms production, oil processing and food processing also occupy an important position. But now half of New York has been flooded. The losses caused by this are simply impossible to estimate in terms of money. This natural disaster has affected not only New York and the United States, but the whole world. The United Nations headquarters is also located in New York City, on the banks of the East River on Manhattan Island. The buildings along the river were the most affected by the flood. Nick saw with his own eyes that boats could already sail under the United Nations headquarters. The only thing he was thankful for was that the buildings farther from the coastline were only soaked by the water instead of being washed away. The severity of this incident has risen from a violent incident to a terrorist act. In other words, even he can't suppress it. If John Lu had killed me before, he could still pay a price to save John Lu. But now John Lu has been upgraded to a terrorist on the same level as Magneto Eric Lansher, and no one can save him. The U.S. military has been dispatched. Fighter planes flew over Nick's head. He sighed and ordered, "Return to S.H.I.E.L.D. There was no need to continue watching. Those crazy people in the military would use any means to eliminate such a terrorist. Especially now that the battle between John Lu and May has reached the open sea. If they were still in the city, the military might be cautious and hold back because they were worried about accidentally injuring the citizens. But they would see the most advanced technological weapons on Earth in the open sea. The military would not consider May's safety when doing things. Accidental injuries were all reasonable losses. Fortunately, the ultimate Wuyang Qigong practice method he had obtained before was still in his hands. Although he didn't have John Lu as an accelerator, it might be possible for scientists to replicate May's success if they studied it. He now began to think about how to start a new project to study the Qigong practice method and where to get the funds. Also, how to remove the responsibility of S.H.I.E.L.D. from this matter and who should be blamed. As he was thinking, he suddenly heard explosions behind him. He turned around and was shocked. More than a dozen planes exploded in the air before they could launch missiles, like huge fireworks. Zhang-Lu retracted his hand and looked at May, whose joy had not yet faded. If you want someone to rescue you, then you'd better give up that thought. These technological creations are okay for dealing with small fry, but they are vulnerable to the god of war. If you want to survive, there is only one way. That is to upgrade the electric current into magnetic field rotation. Despair appeared on May's face. Regardless of her body that was about to collapse, she desperately squeezed her cells again. Electric currents as thick as her arms rolled around her, ionizing the surrounding air and producing a burnt smell. Damn it! I'm going to kill you. Electricity drives, 41 volts. The ultimate emperor lag. She dragged the lightning like a thunder snake, jumped high again, and slammed down on Zhang-Lu. Nick looked at the crashed plane in the distance in shock, and the lightning that soared into the sky again, hesitating in his heart, which trump card he should reveal. What if he underestimated Zhang-Lu again? If his trump card was revealed and it didn't work, then it would be meaningless. He was hesitating when the driver in front turned back and reported, "Sir," Director Pierce called. "Pick it up." "Nick, who is that in New York? Is it Magneto? How did the plane explode?" At this moment, Nick had the urge to put all the blame on Magneto. He had a way to make everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. speak with one voice. Anyway, Magneto was already notorious and wouldn't care about having another blame put on him. In this way, he could save Zhang-Lu, and then use both soft and hard tactics to make him work for him. But he immediately gave up this idea, because Zhang-Lu was now invincible, and if he didn't show him some power, I'm afraid that the future cooperation would not be achieved at all. Even if they reluctantly cooperated, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not be able to take the leading position at all. "Pierce, this is an alien, not Magneto. Agent May from S.H.I.E.L.D. is fighting him, but the situation is not optimistic. You should be able to see it on the satellite." "Damn it! It's a high-energy area on the satellite, and nothing can be seen clearly. I need your on-site intelligence." He fights by manipulating electric currents and magnetic fields. Ordinary aircraft cannot get close to him at all. "Mutant? No, he is not a mutant, but he has superpowers. Maybe I can contact Professor X and get the X-Men out." "No, the military is against letting mutants get involved. This matter must be resolved by humans." "Nick, I know you have many tricks up your sleeve. Now is not the time to hide them. The military will solve this problem first. If the military can't solve it, S.H.I.E.L.D. will solve it. If S.H.I.E.L.D. can't solve it, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s funding will be cut in half next year. Pierce, this matter is not that easy." "Nick, I'm not discussing it with you. I'm informing you." Pierce said this in a domineering tone and hung up the phone. Nick's face turned pale and he punched the back of the seat in front of him. Damn politician. Another wave of planes flew over Nick's head and headed straight for the electric current that was rising into the sky in the distance. Nick could see clearly that this batch of planes was made of special polymer materials developed specifically for Magneto, and the missiles mounted under the racks were likely to carry nuclear warheads. He told the helicopter pilot to drive faster to prevent himself from being affected by the aftermath of the nuclear bomb. The light of the nuclear bomb could blind people, so he took out a pair of sunglasses and put them on before turning his head to look. Zhang-Lu frowned as he looked at the plane flying again in the distance. The martial god's intuition told him that there was something on a certain plane that could hurt him, and it must be a nuclear bomb. His magnetic field is only at the 9th level now. Although the nuclear bomb cannot kill him, it can still cause some damage to him. Of course, the premise is that he stands there and lets the nuclear bomb explode. Now, he decided to destroy these planes in advance. Because, although once the nuclear bomb explodes, he can quickly escape from the center of the nuclear explosion, and the nuclear bomb cannot hurt him at all, but May will definitely not be able to bear it. May could either successfully transform and enter the realm of magnetic field rotation, turn the tide and kill herself on the spot, or fail and be wiped out by herself. There was no third choice. Look carefully. This is the magnetic field rotation of the 9th heaven. Zhang-Lu slowly raised his hand, transferred the power of the magnetic field rotation of the 9th heaven to his hand, and gently pointed at the plane flying in the distance. The fighter pilot felt the plane shake and then lost control. Eagle calling the tower, Eagle calling the tower, the plane is out of control, the plane is out of control. The base was immediately in chaos. Damn it! This plane is not made of metal at all. How did he control it? Zhang-Lu rotated his wrist, and the planes in the air were swung around like yo-yos in the hands of a child. Did you see it clearly? Zhang-Lu deliberately slowed down his movements, showing May the secret of the power of the magnetic field. May watched intently, trying her best to comprehend it. The military could not hold back, launched the nuclear bomb immediately. General, the plane is out of control. After launching the nuclear bomb, we can't get away. This is an order. Launch the nuclear bomb immediately. Repeat, launch the nuclear bomb immediately. Everyone will remember your contribution to the Federation. The pilot was silent for a while, then reached out and pressed the launch button. The nuclear bomb had a guidance system, and once it left the launch pad, it flew towards the target under the control of the distant base. Zhang-Lu sighed. The opportunity was gone. He squeezed his hands, and all the planes and missiles with nuclear warheads were squeezed into a metal ball, which fell from the sky and failed to explode. Do you understand? Zhang-Lu turned his head to look at May. May took a deep breath, concentrated her mind, and squeezed her cells frantically again. Electric current pushes, 50,000 volts. A more violent electric current appeared on May's body, but there was still no sign of qualitative change. Zhang-Lu sighed and continued to attack with the lowest flow rate. The shock wave caused by this heavy blow was more severe than before, and the waves it brought up were also higher than before. New York, which has suffered many disasters, is about to face the second wave of floods. Electric current push, 500,000 volts. Electric current push, 500,000 volts. Electric current push, 500,000 volts. After trying again and again and failing again, May was still unable to overcome the difficulty of the qualitative change from electric current push to magnetic field rotation. As for electric current push, she was also stuck at 500,000 volts and could not advance again. May was panting heavily. Her body was like a rag doll. Although Zhang-Lu had been using only the lowest flow rate to attack, the power of the magnetic field rotation was still far more amazing than the electric current push. The battle that lasted for several hours had caused unimaginable damage to May's body. There is a great terror between life and death. Between life and death, all of a person's energy and spirit can be gathered together. This is the easiest time to break through. The performance in a life and death battle directly reflects the upper limit of a person's potential. But unfortunately, it seems that your potential is limited to this. May's eyes have dimmed, and the original deep hatred has disappeared, leaving only fatigue and weakness. You devil, do you know how many people will be killed by the previous tsunami? Zhang-Lu gently scratched his ears and flicked his little finger. You actually still have the mind to think about this. Your mind is really not pure enough. It seems that I need to let you know what the hell the magnetic field lunatics are. Or, after you die, I can massacre New York and send some people to bury you. What do you think? Jean-Lu said it lightly, but May, who was standing opposite him, felt cold all over when she saw the indifference in his eyes that regarded human life as worthless. Beast! Do you still have any humanity? May cursed in a sad voice. Humanity? Can human nature enable you to achieve magnetic field rotation? Can human nature enable you to defeat me? What's the use of human nature? Go eat shit. As the battle progressed, Jean-Lu's insane personality was slowly aroused. He traveled from Earth to the Martial God world, and his worldview had long been formed. Although he had also been polluted by the worldview of the Martial God world, he was more like an ordinary person at ordinary times. Only when fighting, the more the magnetic field rotation force was used, the easier it was to go crazy. Madman is not a psychopath who only knows how to kill, but he must be paranoid. As a martial god, you must be single-minded. On one hand, you want to defeat me, on the other hand, you want to save people, and on the other hand, you want to condemn me with morality. You think too much, but do too little. If you want to rescue them, then you should use stronger willpower to make your strength stronger. As long as you can defeat me, you can save whoever you want. After you defeat me and save people, you can condemn me morally however you want. The order cannot be messed up. You have no strength to support you. Can you solve the problem just by thinking? Talking nonsense is meaningless. Damn it! May once again exerted his strength and squeezed the cells frantically. Magnetic field rotation. What the hell is that? Electric current drives it. 500,000 volts. Go to hell. After the two of them fought a few more times, Jean-Lu finally confirmed that May did not have the qualifications to become a martial god, or in other words, she could not enter the realm of magnetic field rotation before the Earth's magnetic field was contaminated by magnetic field rotation. In this case, it is useless to keep her. It seems that I have overestimated you after all. Your willpower, concentration, and even awareness are far from meeting the standards of a martial god. In that case, I'll give you a ride. You can die in peace. I'll send New York City to be buried with you. Jean-Lu raised his hand and slapped May's forehead with the ultimate infinite palm. Although the power level was still just that of electric current, under the amplification of the perfect realm, May was. Yes. Death. No. Life.